What if I told you that McLaren has discovered a legal way to manipulate the thermal performance of its tires without using electronics, and that no other team can replicate it even if it had the plans? Are you ready to find out about the biggest technical trick Formula One has seen in years? Stella, who has already worked in elite structures such as Ferrari or with Fernando Alonso in his time of glory, left a phrase that went almost unnoticed in a press conference, but that now takes on a disturbing meaning. Our current technical department is the best I have seen in 26 years in Formula One. When someone with his career says something like that, it is not an exaggeration. It's a warning. And the key is not in the present. It's in the way they have structured their development with a view to 2026, when new regulations will come into force that will change everything: chassis, engines, energy efficiency, and aerodynamic layout. While other teams are caught in the eternal dilemma of whether to evolve the current car or prepare the next one, McLaren has already chosen its path. And he did it in silence, with surgical precision. They decided to freeze development of the 2025 car at the exact point where they knew that further investment would bring diminishing returns. They didn't need more speed. They needed more vision, more anticipation, more control over the next era. And they achieved it by channeling all their technical, human, and simulation resources towards 2026. These types of decisions are not made lightly. In Formula One, giving up the development of a competitive car when you are fighting for podiums can cost you titles. But McLaren took a gamble. He bet that the true championship will be defined not this year, but next. And the most shocking thing is that that bet is already giving them an advantage now. Because the current car, the MCL39, is more than competitive. It is stable, consistent, relentless in the race pace. But not only because of aerodynamics or power, but because it is based on a conceptual architecture that already anticipates the rules of 2026. It is as if they were running with the rules of the future, in the present. And while the other teams are still testing setups, fixing bugs, and adjusting engine maps in real time, McLaren is already 2 steps ahead. They have a car that not only competes but teaches, that collects data for the next technical cycle with an advantage that no one will be able to recover when the regulatory change arrives. That is why what McLaren is doing is not seen in the onboard cameras, nor in the top speed graphs. It is seen in the structure of the team, in its institutional decision, in the calm with which they approach each weekend. They are not racing against Red Bull, Ferrari, or Mercedes. They are racing against time, and they are defeating it. Now that we know this, the real question is not whether McLaren is going to win this year. The question is, how are others going to stop them when we get to 2026? In March 2025, when the season was just beginning, Craig Scarborough, one of the most respected technical analysts in Formula One, he dropped a technical bomb in one of his publications. He described what he saw in the McLaren MCL39 as the only real innovation on the entire grid. But he wasn't talking about a spoiler. It didn't talk about an active suspension or a more efficient battery. He was talking about something much simpler in appearance, but radical in its execution. A conceptual change in the thermal management of brakes and tires. Something so unexpected and so effective that even with full access to the plans, the other teams would not be able to copy it in time. The secret lies in a specific part of the car, the brake drum. A part that for decades has been understood as a simple structural and safety component, with the sole function of protecting the brake system and channeling air for cooling. But McLaren reinvented it. And he did it using an ancient physical principle, phase change. This is the real Turkish trick that Andrea Stella and her team hid for more than a year. The incorporation of phase change materials, known as PCM, integrated into the internal areas of the drums. These materials have the ability to absorb and release large amounts of thermal energy without modifying their own temperature. When they reach a predetermined melting point, they melt, absorbing heat, and when they cool, they solidify, releasing that accumulated energy. Andrea Stella explained it with crystal clarity. If we continued developing this year's car, we were not going to arrive on time with the 2026 project. So we made a decision: invest completely in the future. We want to win championships, not just individual races. In an environment where every point is vital, this statement sounded like a break with traditional thinking. But for Stella and her team, it was not a leap into the void. It was a mathematical and technical evaluation of the return on investment. The MCL39, by that point in the year, had already reached such a high level of maturity that each additional improvement required weeks of work to gain mere thousands. The concept was at a plateau of development. Any new part involved disproportionate effort for marginal benefits. Neil Holdy, McLaren's deputy technical director, was even more explicit. A valuable update gave us, if we were lucky, 30 milliseconds. But the 2026 car gives us whole tenths per week. There was no more logical decision. We just had to have the courage to take it. And here lies the core of this story. McLaren isn't just designing a car for the new regulations. They are developing a technical platform from scratch, freed from the limitations that other teams will continue to drag until the last minute of 2025. They are building their car for 2026 without compromises, without having to share resources with the present, without having to adapt old parts to new standards. They are creating a beast designed to reign from the first day of the new era. The benefit is not only technical, it is structural. By the time most teams start dividing resources at the end of 2025, McLaren will already have months of head start in simulations, wind tunnel and CFD validation. They will have refined concepts, tested variants, ruled out errors before their rivals even finish reading the new technical regulations carefully. And that translates into a kind of silent but lethal dominance. It's not the difference you see in a fast lap. It is the difference that accumulates during the winter. It is the invisible gap that becomes a half-second advantage when the green flag falls in the first Grand Prix of 2026. Furthermore, the 2026 regulatory change represents the clearest opportunity in a decade to establish hegemony. The regulations rewrite not only the chassis but the energy philosophy of the cars. The use of the MGUK, the efficiency of the ICE, the integration of the energy recovery system, the reduced downforce, all of this requires new solutions. And McLaren is not looking for them. He is creating them. While other teams continue to optimize cars that are already in their conceptual twilight, McLaren is designing theirs with a clean look, without conditions. Every millimeter of the 2026 car is designed for these new rules. Every technical decision is made without looking back. And that makes McLaren the first team on the grid that not only competes with an advantage, compete freely. The message is clear. McLaren has stopped playing the traditional F1 game. The board has changed. He has redefined the rules for himself. And when the traffic lights go out at the first GP of the 2026 season, the rest of the teams could find themselves not only racing behind, but realizing too late that the real race had already begun a year ago. What McLaren has done is not simply high-level engineering. It is not just a technical evolution or a brilliant interpretation of the regulations. It is a declaration of principles, a position that transcends the competitive to become a philosophy. In a sport where each team usually reacts to the environment, McLaren chose to redefine it. They have not waited for the change to come. They have provoked it. Stopping the development of a car that can still win races to bet everything on the future is not simply bravery. It is vision. It is understanding that in Formula One, championships are not won on Sunday, but on Monday in the factory, on Tuesday in the simulations, and on Wednesday in the design room. It is understanding that whoever wants to dominate in 2026 must build their advantage in 2025, even if that means giving up immediate glory. This type of leadership is not seen every day, and it is what is separating McLaren from the rest. Because while others are still trying to understand why their car doesn't work in certain conditions, McLaren is already 5 steps ahead, designing a car that doesn't yet exist for an era that hasn't yet begun. But this is not just a technical story. It is a story of how an organization decides to transform itself from within, of how a leader like Andrea Stella can convince an entire team to look beyond the standings. How you can convert a historic team that had been far from the top for years into a structure that now commands respect, fear, and, above all, technical admiration. And now the question is on the table. A question that does not have an immediate answer, but that will mark the destiny of the coming years of F1. Can the rest of the grid react in time? Will teams like Red Bull, Ferrari, or Mercedes be able to restructure their technical programs, reorganize their resources, and reconnect with the innovation that today distinguishes McLaren? Or we are, perhaps, at the beginning of a new dynasty. One that is not based solely on a dominant driver, nor on an extraordinary engine, but on a technical culture capable of anticipating the future and building it piece by piece with surgical precision. And that's where you come in. We want to know your opinion. Don't just stay with the data. We want to hear your analysis. Do you think McLaren's bet is the right one? Or are they sacrificing too much in the present for an uncertain promise of tomorrow? Who can stop them? Which team has the structure, flexibility, and audacity to face this new McLaren? Leave your answer in the comments what you think about all this.